guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new I Don't Work Here Lady content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled "Well Then Why Are You Carrying Those?" I am an avid music addict. No questions about that, and one thing I've noticed is that used classical and opera vinyl records can be cheap as duck. Like we're talking $1 to $2 for a complete opera. After geeking out at a record store in my new city, I was carrying my latest hoard to the counter. A guy stopped me while heading up there, and immediately started asking me for help. Guy. Hey, is there anyone down there that can help with the DVDs? Me. Don't know. There might be, but you'd probably have better luck at the counter. Guy. I'm not waiting that long. Once you're done with those, can you help me? Me. Oh, I don't work here. Guy. What do you mean? You're restocking, right? Why are you carrying those? Me. I'm buying them. Guy. You really expect me to believe that? People actually buy that crap? Me. Hey, it's cheap and I have a record player. Guy. But why? Are you sure you're not just trying to get out of helping me? I really need help. Me. Like I said, I don't know where there are any employees, but I'm pretty sure you can find one down here. Guy. Under his breath while walking away, well duck you too then. Stupid kid. When I was at the counter, the guy came back into the area and shouted out, "Where the duck are all the ducking employees?" I left shortly after that. The next story is titled "Get Off Your Damn Chair and Help." I'm currently working for a third-party vendor for one of the most well-known retail stores in the US, hint, Blue Vest era. My priority is selling mobile data plans and mobile accessories. In other words, I'm the phone person. This also means that while I work at the electronics counter in the store of Blue Vests, I don't actually work for them. This of course also means that there are certain tasks I'm not supposed to do, including ringing up people that aren't purchasing any mobile accessories. There are sometimes exceptions, like when the rest of the electronics associates are swamped because of understaffing. While I try to help out when they're super busy, the point is that I'm not supposed to too often. One afternoon when I was adding some inventory to the system, one of the associates asked if I could ring up this lady, who is now Karen, who was buying iPhone screen protectors. He was the only associate working at the time, and there was a mini line of 5 people. He wanted to help the next customer while I ring Karen up. One thing I forgot to mention is that I have my own little area at the electronics counter. There I have my own little seat and computer that many customers have mistaken as a cash register. It's understandable since there is also a card reader there. Not much happened while I was checking her items out. It was just any normal transaction at the cash register. She thanks me and I tell her to have a good day. Afterward, I go back to my seat to complete the inventory. About 10 minutes later, while I'm still sitting at my computer, it happens. Karen taps her nails on my counter. Me looks at her smiling, yee. Karen shoves her pointer finger into my face, you need to get off your damn chair and help everyone that's in line right now. Me immediately annoyed, excuse me? Karen, we all have been waiting in line and you've just been sitting here doing nothing. It's not F. Other associate. Ma'am, she actually isn't a Walmart associate and is actually supposed to strictly be in charge of phones. Karen. Surprised he came to my defense. Oh, I was just trying to help you. Other associate. Yes, I understand, but if you could just wait in line, I will be able to assist you soon. Karen. Oh, okay, you see, I just thought I saw her. Other associate. Yes, I understand. Then the Karen left without apologizing, of course. Just kinda waddled off. The other associate and I just shared a look like, WTF was that? Karen didn't even go back in line. In fact, she wasn't in line in the first place. I had already helped her and she left and for some reason felt the need to come back and yell at me. But yeah, so that's my little I don't work here story. I have a couple more, but this is the first one that came to mind. Hope you enjoyed. Oh, and I treated that associate to Starbucks. The next story is titled "Never Judge a Book." I just joined the Reddit family and this is my first post. I'm old, like in my 70s old. But my wife said that some of my stories might be entertaining. This is something I witnessed about 10 years ago. OL. Old lady BB, big bully. I was shopping at a store with a big bullseye logo. I noticed this old lady, looked to be in her late 60s, who was just going about her business. I noticed because she held herself very upright and with a lot of confidence, though she was only about 5 feet tall, and 100 pounds if she was an ounce. She had on a nice red blouse and tan pants, which turned out to be a bad fashion choice for this store, as you will soon see. As I passed by, we nodded to each other and I started making my way to the luggage and bags to look for a new backpack for myself. After about a couple of minutes of looking, I heard Ray's voices and glanced over my shoulder to see the old woman in a heated exchange with a middle-aged man, BB, twice her size. He was talking very loud and calling her awful names, the B word and worse, and telling her that just because she was old didn't mean that she could ignore customers. She was, I imagine, trying to explain that she didn't work there but couldn't get a word in edgewise since the BB was refusing to let her talk. I started to walk over there to see if I could help, but soon saw that my help was not needed. BB actually had the gall to grab her by her shoulder and give her a shake. I will never forget what happened next. OL grabbed his wrist, twisted it behind him in some kind of martial arts move, kicked him behind his knee, which made him collapse onto his knees. She then had his arm behind his back with his hand in what looked like a very painful position that apparently he couldn't escape from. By then I was close enough that I heard her softly tell him, "Look, I said I don't work here and I will break your friggin'," she didn't say friggin', "arm if you try to touch me again. Now, do you understand?" He started to struggle but gave up when she elevated his pinned arm a little and he cried out in pain. She said, "I asked if you understand." He nodded his head and she said, "Now, are you going to be a good boy and leave me alone?" He nodded again and she released him. He knelt there on the floor for a minute, rubbing his wrist and looking like any full-grown man would look if they just had their ass handed to them by a little old lady, contrite and embarrassed. She simply walked away and continued shopping. He finally got up and speed walked out of the store. I caught up to her and asked if she was all right, as if. She smiled sweetly and said, "I can't stand bullies." We talked for a minute and she told me that she took self-defense classes at a nearby senior center and she learned to take care of herself a long time ago and refuses to be bullied. Like the title says, you can't judge a book by its cover. So don't mess with harmless-looking little old ladies, they might just kick your ass. I hope you like this post. I have lots of stories that I might share if you care to hear them. The next story is titled Hummer in Our Driveway. Next door to my family's house is a house that's really 2 apartments. People probably stay there for a year or 2, if that long, and then move on. We have had our fair share of nutters moving in and out. My personal favorite is the guy that had a real mounted human skull, and this one had a Hummer to mess with them. So, new neighbor, had a lot of kids. My mom says 4, my dad says 5, but either way, the family needed a big car. So, they had a Hummer. This was in the summer of 2010, I believe, when my mom was coming home from the store, and saw this black metal brick in her and dad's driveway. It wasn't even parked to one side, the damn thing was parked right in the middle, preventing my mom from getting her van parked. So, my mom marches next door, and asked the neighbors there if either one of them owned the Hummer. The lady with the many kids said that their spot didn't have enough room, so she needed to park it somewhere. My mom asked her to move it, because neither she nor my dad could use that spot. So, the M did so, moved it to her home's driveway, pushing it up against the side, almost touching the grass. Plenty of room for the other renter's car to park. Thought that was the end of it. Nope. My dad came home from work in the middle of the night, pulled in, and almost hit the Hummer. He managed to stop before he could and found it parked in the center of their driveway again. Next morning, my dad, who had to park on the street, went to the woman and told her to move it. Reluctantly, my dad went, she did so. But complained about how she didn't have a lot of room in her lot. This went on for the entire summer. Mom and dad, and even myself when I was visiting, took turns telling her to move the Hummer. She must have a police radio, because every time we called the cops, the Hummer would quickly move. I did take pictures, but the idiot just kept saying that she was just turning her car around, using our driveway to go into and back up. Which, everyone does apparently. Then one day, the idiot slides the ducking Hummer up to the driveway. Not into the driveway. She parked sideways, the doors facing the house, and left it there, blocking my folks in, and went into her home. Yes, Mom and Dad yelled at her, threatening to call the cops, but she ignored them. Dad's friend, who came up to visit, suggested to my dad that instead of calling the police, call a tow company. Just have them tow away the Hummer. They did, and the woman raised holy hell over it. But she was illegally parked, and my parents, and cops before, issued her warnings. So my parents were well within their rights to have the car towed. She moved out quickly soon after, breaking the lease. And I grilled a huge steak for my dad's friend for his help. The next story is titled We Don't Work Here. But what the hell, I'll take your order. In my youth my family was rather poor, lower middle class. My dad, who could not read or write, worked graveyard shift at a creamery. My mother, a housewife, was very active in PTA and other community activities. My dad's job paid the bills and put staple foods on the table, but left no room for comfort expenses. As soon as I was old enough I got a paper route. The monthly funds went towards padding our family budget. One simple joy we took pleasure in was once a month we would splurge on a quiet salad and pizza dinner at the local Pizza Hut. This story takes place 1987–1988 there-ish. I was about 14 at the time. We arrived one Sunday afternoon at the local pizza parlor. We went in, we sat down at our regular table, and we waited for the waitress to come take our order. We talked. We waited. We cracked jokes and waited some more. We started to realize something was not quite right after 10 to 15 minutes. We had heard the phone ring a few times, but other than that there was none of the usual sounds of bustling workers in the kitchen area. Curious, I slid out of the bench and approached the cashier's counter. Looking around in the back area I could not see a living soul. "Hello," I called out. Nothing. "Anybody back there?" Again no response. Now I was feeling that distinct edgy feeling one gets while watching a horror movie. I returned to my parents and informed them what I had discovered, or should say, lack of discovery. "Check the restrooms?" my dad suggested. My mom agreed. She checked the woman's room while dad checked the men's. No one. Now we were all very concerned, and more than a little frightened. We had heard on TV and in newspapers stories how sometimes a robbery goes bad and it was only discovered when employee bodies were found. "Call the police?" Mom suggested, pointing at the phone on the wall. Which chose that very moment to ring out loud, making all of us jump in fright. "The freezer," I said over the ringing phone. "What?" Mom asked. "The freezer. In horror movies that's where the bodies are always at, right?" "I'll look," I said. "The hell you will," my mom responded with authority. "You father will check it." My beloved father, the man I admired most in the world, pointed at me and said, "He runs faster." In the end I did indeed go behind the counter, by the simple fact my parents were too busy arguing over who would go check in the back to notice me walking off. First I armed myself with an impressively large and surprisingly sharp round pizza cutter sitting on a counter. Next I checked the entirety of the back area. The back door was locked from the inside. Then I checked the manager's office cubicle. Finally I approached the freezer. I knew what I was going to find. I've seen this scene in plenty of movies. By this point both my parents noticed my absence and had joined me, staring at the freezer door with morbid anticipation. I grabbed the handle, pulled, and threw the door open. And sure enough there staring back at us was boxes of pizza-making supplies. But no bodies. Wah? I was, truth to tell, morbidly disappointed. Nobody. No bodies. Nothing. No workers. We were the only ones in the pizza parlor. "Hilu," came a call from the front. I'm pretty sure if a little more effort had been put into the jump scare we would have hit our heads on the ceiling. Quickly we approached the front. I recall my heart racing a mile thinking an employee had arrived. Only to find a middle-aged gentleman waiting along with his wife by the "wait to be seated" sign. "Oh, there you are," he said. "We would like a table for two." "I'm sorry sir." My mother replied. "We don't work here." "Okay, but we want a table for two. There is nobody here." We checked. Mom explained. "Yes, I can see the place is empty. So can we have a table in the back?" The man pressed. "We don't work here. As far as we can tell there is nobody here that's supposed to be here." Mom further elaborated. "So where can we sit?" "Oh, just find a place to park your butts. The place is empty." My dad butted in. My father, bluntly honest and always absurdly practical. "Honey, just call the police, let them know what we found." With that decided, my dad scuttled off to the salad bar. Let it be known, my father was never one to let an opportunity for a meal go to waste. It took over an hour for a police officer to arrive. The reason it took so long, as the officer would explain later, was that dispatch had downgraded our call to non-emergency status. During the wait, however, we had to deal with a few things. Waiter. We would like menus, please. My dad, being the helpful sort, with a decidedly odd sense of humor, gave the couple menus. 1 sweet tea and 1 unsweet with lemon, please. I was already hitting the fountain drink machine. I was there, it was there. And Mom had found the coffee supplies. Sue, what the hell? I brought them their drinks. We would like 2 dinner salads and a large pepperoni pizza. Dad pointed to the plates by the salad bar and told them, might be a few minutes on the pizza. Gotta wait for an employee to show up first, but go ahead and eat as much salad as you want. Then one of the nearby churches let out. Hello, there are 4 of us. Hi. We got 2 more coming. I tried calling several times, can I please get 2 large pizzas to go? By the time the police officer arrived, my mom and I were effectively running the parlor along with a guy who came in from the church with his family. He said he once worked at the other Pizza Hut in town while in college. Mom took orders, I delivered drinks and food, I got tips, and the young man made the pizzas. My dad? He was busy eating and chatting with the customers. As for people paying for their food, neither my father or I could calculate our way past 10 fingers and 10 toes. Mom, on the other hand, was one of those super annoying people of her generation that could calculate a whole strings of numbers in her head faster than you could type on a digital calculating machine. Really annoying. So she figured up the amount, including tax, and had them pay with check. The checks were slid under the cash register. The register itself we did not even try and touch. When the officer arrived, we were quite happy to recognize him as one of the officers my dad was friends with. Back then, police officers on the night shift could come by the creamery my dad worked at and get free ice cream from the employees' break room. Dad would often take time to shoot the breeze with them for a few minutes. Officer Shield, as I will call him, immediately recognized my dad and asked him what was going on. My dad explained the situation and I butted in, sounding a little disappointed, I'm sure, that we didn't find any dead bodies in the freezer. Officer Shield first went to the register, opened it, and confirmed that there was still cash in the till box, then walked around the inside and outside of the building. No signs whatsoever of any kind of disturbance. He called it in, and waited for orders from higher up. In the meantime, never let it be said a police officer is willing to pass up an opportunity for free food. 20 to 30 minutes later? I can't recall, but eventually he got a call back telling him to lock up the place. They were trying to contact the owner of that franchise. But, problem. He couldn't find the keys to the parlor, and the main doors had to be locked from either the outside, with a key, or the doors locked from the inside, with the latch, then exit out the back door, which required a key to lock the bolt from outside. Officer Shield called that fact back in. A few minutes later, the lead officer on shift arrived to evaluate the situation. What did he find? A pizza parlor half full of customers happily chowing down on pizza. When he asked, understandable confused, why, Officer Shield called in his report saying there was no employees on the premise when clearly customers were being served. At which point I so happily piped in, while handing off a pizza to go to a waiting customer. Oh, we don't work here. We're just being helpful. So eventually, the police managed to contact the owner after a couple of hours. The owner contacted the manager and the manager came storming in. Lots of anger and confusion. The manager, in a fluster, tried to accuse my parents and I of theft of company property, but Officer Shield would have none of that and pointed out the checks, the order slips, and the list of anything we used. Then he pointed out the fact we could have just left the place empty and thieves could have ransacked the parlor. She backed down and focused on contacting the workers that were supposed to be on duty. Turned out the assistant manager had found out that very morning her boyfriend was having an affair. She had then gone on a tirade, taking her anger out on her male employees, verbally abusing them. They chose not to take the abuse and walked out. The assistant manager then just decided to up and quit, leaving the shop wide open. As for my parents and I, we were informed by Officer Shield, very firmly, that should we, for whatever reason, find ourselves in such a situation again, it would be far more helpful if we refrained from being helpful. And yes, we did pay for our food and drinks, but we still got banned for life from that parlor. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.